So you're at that point where you're absolutely sure living abroad is right for you. But is it really? Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael de Furia, aka Rafi D is me, and I am back at it again on another beautiful Friday night. And tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the basics, in my opinion, some things to consider before moving abroad, like the ABCs almost. We've spoken about a lot of these things in past videos here on this channel, but tonight I wanted to try to group a lot of them together in one video. I'm not going to be able to go over everything, but I wanted to try to cover as much ground as possible. But before we get too much deeper into this video, of course, a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make content like this possible. Thank you to the monthly patrons. It is because of you guys that I am able to continue with this project. And if you would like to help make more videos like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldefuria.com/Patreon or rafaeldefuria.com/support to help out just one time, or for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more, like posters with Italy-centric designs, you can go to rafaeldefuria.com/NYAG gear. And just before we get into this, for those of you who are living abroad, who've already made the jump, what are some of the top tips that you would give to somebody, to a friend of yours who's maybe thinking about moving abroad? What are some of those little basic things that you would share with them? Or for those of you who haven't moved abroad yet, what are those first basic steps that you're thinking about that maybe are the most concerning to you? Time to bust out the glasses, because I have a list here that I would like to refer to. The first thing when moving abroad is, how are you going to support yourself? How are you going to get by? What is it going to be that allows you to actually live abroad? Are you planning on trying to find a job in your new country of choice? Or are you planning to work online? This is something that is absolutely necessary to know. If you can get this organized before you leave, even better. But if you are unable to get this organized before you leave, I would say be very careful. It's not impossible, but it's not the best idea. I've definitely done it before, but it has, of course, led to some more difficult situations. And depending on the country that you're planning on going to, I would say plan on not finding a job. No matter where you go, even if you have a job, you want to have enough money that can get you by for at least a couple of months, maybe a few months or more, if you're unable to work. But how much money to save, how much money to put off to the side, will really depend on where you want to go. It'll depend on the country you want to go to, the part of the country that you want to go to. Even here in Italy, when people ask me about, can I get by with X amount per month, or can I get by with X amount per month? That's a question I'm not usually able to answer if they're asking me about Italy. If they're asking me about a specific place, then I might have an indication for that area, but because things are so different everywhere you go in the country, it's almost impossible to say. But there are websites online where you can look and find the average cost of a stick of butter, a pound of meat, vegetables, apples, milk, whatever those daily necessities are. I can never remember the name of the website off the top of my head, but if you type in cost of living in, and then type the name of the town or city that you're looking for, smaller places often aren't so easy to find information about, but if you're going to a city, then that information will generally be not too hard to find. Some people like to look at the Big Mac index of what a Big Mac costs around the world. One thing that I think is also a good way to kind of look at how much a place costs. I'm not a smoker, but I think that a pack of cigarettes is also a really interesting indicator to look at. And then also, of course, the cost of rent. In some places, you may not be able to find roommates, as is the case in many small Italian towns, but in cities, you might be able to, but it's not always the case. But it's definitely one of those things that does happen and is becoming more common. Also, if you're planning to work online, definitely try out that job in a place that is more comfortable to you. Before leaving home, try working that same job, do a test run, kind of a dry fit, just to make sure that that position that you're trying out is something that could even be sustainable for you. I've known people who have tried teaching English. They have found out along the way that it was not the right fit for them and ended up going absolutely bonkers, being stuck in a line of work that they could not stand and stuck in a place where they didn't have so much flexibility to find another job, as is unfortunately the case for many English speakers when they come to Italy, because without the language here, you're not going to be able to get that far. And that doesn't matter if you're teaching in a school where you are or online. But let's talk about the ability to work quickly. Can you work in the place where you're planning to move to? It's not that you just get on a plane, you hop on the plane and you all of a sudden arrive in a country and are legal to work there. Unless you're moving to Europe as a European citizen, then you can make it happen. But if you are an American and you want to go out to Australia, or if you are, again, American and you want to go to Vietnam, if you're American and you want to go to Canada, if you're American, you want to go to Germany, wherever it may be, different countries have different sets of rules on who is allowed to work, how much they're allowed to work, and the details of what would make them eligible to be able to get a visa or a permission of stay and or a permit to be able to stay in that country and work. But then, of course, if you're going to plan to be in a place, you're going to need to have a place to be, a place to sleep. Depending on the country, depending on your visa or the way that you're in the country, in some countries, even for tourists, you may be required to have a hotel set up and a reservation or an apartment that will be the deciding factor in what will allow you to remain in that country. So that is something also to consider. What do you need? What are those pieces of the puzzle that you already need to have in place? But also in some places, you will already have to have that permission of stay, the visa, or so on before you can even rent an apartment. So it depends on the owner, the country, and how the system works in that area. But I know there are those of you who've been watching my channel who are planning on buying or in the middle of buying property here in Italy or abroad, just anywhere. And the one thing that I've been seeing kind of popping up more is that people will just go on a vacation to a place and buy a property, or I know of someone who has recently purchased a property sight unseen. And I personally could never imagine doing that. A few years back, a real estate agent friend of mine shared a piece of wisdom that I have shared here on the channel before that I think is the best thing to do when it comes to purchasing property. I'm not in this position in life myself, but this is something that I think is extremely wise. Rent in that town for at least 2 years before purchasing, because in that 2-year period of time, you will see if that place is truly the right fit for you. In a week, you might get a good feel. In a month, you might get a good feel. But after 2 years, you will definitely know, because you will have settled into your rhythm and you'll have found out if what you were looking for there is actually there. Things like this do take time. Maybe it might be half a year. Maybe it might be a year. Sorry about this phone going off. I should have put it on silent. But I know I've definitely lived in places where I thought that would be the place that I would end up. I can say even in Merano, when I first got there, I was so sure that's the place that I would be. Even after a while, I would say to myself, one day when I can buy a place, that will be the place. Ended up that it just really wasn't the right fit for me. And I know that now, even though, like I said, I am not in the position to purchase anything. I know that wouldn't be the right fit for me. And as time goes on, you will get that better sense of what really is the right fit for you, because you could try living abroad and find out that it's not right for you. Or you could try a specific city and find that city is not right for you. But what are these things that make up what could be the right place? I would say for some people, the first thing to think about will be what your social life is like. Is your family important to you? Are friends important to you? Do you spend a lot of time with them? If so, how disconnected will you be once you move abroad? Will you need to make a whole new group of friends? Or are your friends also kind of mobile and you guys are all over the world together? What about your family? Are your parents elderly and do they need someone to look after them? Do you have other family members who would be able to be there and look after them? Or are you a parent with children, young children, teenagers, whatever it may be? They'll of course have to be a part of the equation when it comes to this. Some people just really aren't cut out for moving, and teenagers very often have a much more difficult time to move abroad. Younger kids, they'll settle into things a little bit more easily and they'll learn the language a bit more easily. But teenagers will more often than not have a more difficult time when it comes to this. But what kind of support is it that you need around you? Do you thrive off of having your social circle there? Do you need that? Is that the way that you recharge your batteries at the end of the day? But whether it is the people who you already have in your life, or if you're looking to make new friends, are you going to be going to a place where you speak the same language as the people who are there? But just speaking the language of the place may not be enough. Very often, foreigners will not end up being able to penetrate into local social circles in the same way that someone from that place might be able to. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. But will you be able to find friends who would be accepting of who you are? Yeah, sure. But you will have an uphill battle. But are you going to go to a place that has other expats? Are you going to a place with a thriving expat community? Then in that case, there may be other people there who you will be able to build those relationships with, who are understanding of your situation, and that you all have this same place in life where you all have reached together. But in expat communities, what's very often the case is those communities aren't permanent communities. And there's a lot of, I don't know how you could say, transients. People move around, and a lot of expat communities aren't people there who are there permanently. Not always. You will find those people who are in a place for the long haul. I would say in my personal experience, finding those people almost seems to be a little bit more uncommon, but it depends on the location as well. What else is it that you need in your social life? Are you the type of person that's happy to be at home and really anywhere in the world would be fine for you, because at the end of the day, all you really want to do is just pop on some Netflix and eat some popcorn? Although that actually does come with one little caveat, because in each country where Netflix is available, it's not available everywhere, but where it is available, the library is slightly different, and you may or may not be able to find the content that you're interested in. Like in Italy, for example, it's very common that people will actually go out, and that will be a large part of their social interaction with people. You don't see as much as in the States, where people go and hang out at their friends' houses. I mean, people do have each other over. That's not unheard of. But it's not that same kind of culture in the States, where you kind of have a game room, a family room, a man cave where you play pool. People don't have that kind of space often in Europe, at least. But you will maybe find in Northern Europe that people are more likely to spend time in each other's homes, or in indoor spaces, or like in the UK, a public house, like a local living room, basically, where they happen to serve beers and stuff. Kind of moving on to the and stuff part of it, food. What kind of diet do you eat? Whether you're not on a specialized diet, what is it that makes up what you eat on a day-to-day basis? What are your comfort foods? And will you be able to find those abroad, or will you be able to replace them? Maybe you might be able to replace them for a short while, but on the long term, is that going to be doable for you? Although if you are moving to Italy, then just the food's good, so there's nothing to worry about. Although Italian food in Italy is going to be different than what you might be used to if you're from the States and are talking about Italian American food. There will be things here that you might find quite foreign. For example, horse on pizza. That was such a scarring experience. I still haven't gotten over that one. Oh, God. But I would say that one might be a little bit less important. But if you know that you can't eat a certain type of food, for example, I know that I'm not such a fan of Indian food. So for me, if I were to go to that part of the world, I think I might have a little bit of a difficult time, because that's just a cuisine that I just don't enjoy, that it doesn't appeal to me. I have nothing against it. It's just I don't find it appetizing, where I know people will not find certain other types of food appealing to them. I just don't enjoy the smells and flavors of something like curry, for example. But of course, there are those foods that you can avoid, like even here in Italy. Again, the example of horse. It's something I don't enjoy, and I can't eat it. I've tried, but I can't. But then taking a step back to something we were already talking about, the language. What is your ability to pick up languages? Have you already learned the language of the place where you're going to be moving, or are you planning on learning it while you're there? I would say if you can prepare yourself ahead of time, that will be better. You will never get fully fluent, and you will never perfectly speak the language if you've only learned it outside of its native country. Because if you're not exposed to the way that people speak the language and the way that it is just kind of presented out on the street every day, then you are not going to get what it is that language actually, the essence of that language. You can learn a language in the book, you can learn how it's written, but the way that people actually pronounce things or the way that they might form a sentence will be very different. And that definitely holds true in Italy, where you have all over the country of different accents and different dialects, and those different dialects influence the way that people speak, like even the words that are used. An example of this might be like in the United States, where I might call those little colorful things that you put on top of ice cream sprinkles, some people might call them jimmies, or the chocolate variety, they might call them chocolate jimmies. But to me, it's all sprinkles. Or I might call it a soda and someone might call it a pop. So you will find things like this that do exist in Italy. Like even when I lived in Alto Adige, they would say un sacchetto, like a bag when you're going to the supermarket. Would you like a bag? Vuoi un sacchetto? Whereas here where I live now in Veneto, they will more often say vuoi una borsa. So it would be the difference really like in the States between bag and sack. But also, what are your hobbies? What is it that brings you enjoyment in life? What are the things that you like to do? Is it going out with your friends? Is it carving wood? Is it playing pool? Is it video games? What is it? If you're a gamer, for example, will you be able to find the video games that you enjoy in the country where you are? For example, if you're a console gamer, sometimes you might not be able to find a game that might be in your language. If you're a PC gamer and just ordering off of Steam, then things will for sure be much easier. Or are you someone who likes to cook in their spare time? Will you be able to find the ingredients that you're used to? Do you like to make that special chili lime sauce that you put on top of your chicken? Will you be able to find lime, and will you be able to find the chili? Chicken, I'm sure you'll be able to find. But will you be able to find all of the spices and flavors that you're accustomed to? I personally happen to enjoy the hot sauce tapatios, the one with the mariachi on front. I think it's much better than Tabasco, but Tabasco is all that I can find. It's the closest thing, so I deal with it. And it's those little things that can build up over time, and in those moments where you might be having a rough time, that those can be the things that just end up driving you crazy. But finally, what is the reason behind your move? Is it that you're looking for an adventure, or are you running from something? Are you running from a certain situation? Are you trying to escape from the monotony of your job? Or are you in a bad situation and you're trying to get yourself out of that, and you think that living abroad will be the answer? And definitely in those situations, like I've said many times, you need to take a look also inside to see if your inside is kind of becoming your outside, your space around you. Are you going to end up back in the same type of situation that you would otherwise be in? Oftentimes people think that moving abroad will fix a problem of theirs, but very often they end up in a similar situation, if not a more difficult situation, because you can be dealing with the same problems, but dealing with them on a new playing field can be much more stressful when you're unfamiliar with the territory around you and unfamiliar with the language, some of those basic baby footsteps that you're just starting to get a hang of. I'm sure there's a few things that I've forgotten in this video, but if you have anything to add to this conversation, of course, as always, it is open and I would love to hear from you guys. For those of you who've lived abroad, what are the things that you would say would also be some of the basic first things to look at before moving abroad? And for those of you who haven't moved abroad yet and are still thinking about it, what are some of the basic things that you're thinking about? Maybe that I haven't mentioned in this video, because I know I have definitely left a few things out. And if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian, dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be greatly appreciated, as it does help out the channel. And of course, if you would like to help the channel and help make more content like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon, rafaeldifuria.com/support to just help out one time, or rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more, like posters with Italy-centric designs. All of that go to help make videos like this possible. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on another beautiful Friday night. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a great week ahead of you. Of course, as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi D is me, and I look forward to seeing you all next Friday. Later.